Hello, welcome to the Jerome Bee Farm and Homestead. I wasn't going to make a bee video today, but I came across something interesting that's out of the ordinary, sort of, so I thought I would show it because it's helpful to new beekeepers to see this and to recognize it. So I started this year with 23 hives. The first one I lost was right here. That was in the fall. Then I lost one here. This was the little hive that could, so it couldn't. So check out a prior video on this hive. I got a playlist on it. So it's the last straw on that one was a pretty bad skunk attack. A lot of dead bees in the front from a skunk. This hive here is it's going to be gone. So I need to do something with it to make use of the bees that are left in it. So it's queenless. And I checked it the first time this spring. It's March 31st, 2018. And I didn't find the queen in there, and it's laying workers. So there's a pretty good population of bees in there. So I want to try and save them. So what I'm going to do is I've got another hive back over here that's pretty weak as well. That's the one I call Tiny Swarm. It's still tiny. It never has seemed to taken off. It has a good looking queen in there, but it's only 3 frames. There's actually one center frame that's got bees on both sides, and then a frame that has a half and another frame next to it that has a half. So really that's 2 frames of bees. They're in a full-size box, which they shouldn't be now. They should be in a nuke so they can keep warm. There's a cold front coming in. It's supposed to get down at, I think, 33 degrees for a couple days and be sustained at that temperature. So I don't think Tiny Swarm would survive that. It needs some help. So what I'm going to do, I got a double screen board. I'm going to show you that I use, and it has little side entrances on it. Use it to combine hives and to do things like that. I can't remember, it's called a double screen board. Anyway, as soon as it gets dusk and all the field bees are back in here, I'm going to move this hive over, put it on top of that double screen, and combine these 2 hives. That way this hive will help keep Tiny Swarm warm during this cold weather, and the queen pheromone from Tiny Swarm will help to correct the laying worker problem. So in the past when I've done that, a lot of times they supersede the queen, so I'm going to keep them shut up for a while this time. I'm not going to let them combine for over a week. I'm going to let them go get through that cold weather cycle, and then I'm going to let them out, the ones on the top anyway. The ones on the bottom will be free to come and go. So I'm going to show you what this laying worker hive looks like right now. Okay, I call this hive the Mrs. Dickerson hive because I got it up the street in a cutout, and the street's name was Dickerson Street, which is kind of frustrating. You go to all that work and effort to get them out and cut them out and get them, and then they don't survive. So it was a very small swarm to start with, or not a swarm. It was a small well, it was a swarm, but it was in that house and it wasn't in there very long. So it was a pretty small cutout. So this is just a sugar feeder here. Actually, it's one of these different types of inner covers that has this big space in the bottom right here, so you can, in the wintertime, add sugar like that. There's a hive beetle. There was a hive beetle. So you can see there's not a bad population of bees in here. There's probably 4 frames. And they've got some decent honey stores in here as well. Take off the beetle trap. I'm just going to go right in here because I know there's no queen. So I'm going to start on frame number 3, just get it out of the way. So here's a normal frame, nothing going on there, there's no brood, there's a little bit of pollen. Here's new nectar that they put in, and capped honey that has survived from, or that's left over from winter. So as soon as I opened this frame here, I could see drone brood in here. And that's not where you want to see drone brood, in the middle of your frame. If you see drone brood in the middle of your frame, and a lot of it, you probably got a laying worker or laying workers. So here's pollen. So there should be eggs laid right in here, and there's not. There's nothing. There's a nice pollen ring here. I can see bees bringing in pollen. There's a drone. There's no queen on this frame at all. Let's get you a close up of that. So see the pollen right in here? The different colors. Well, it's mainly one color, but those lighter colored patches is pollen in those cells, like right in there. And normally there would be honey on these corners, but they're empty. So I'm looking in here and I see I see cells sticking out, long ones. That means they're drone cells. Drone cells are bigger. So there you go. That's the telltale sign of laying workers. So all these eggs that were laid in here are sterile eggs. They're not fertilized. So they turn into drones. You can see one hatching out right there right now. See him coming out of his cell? That's his head right there. So see how you don't have a nice pattern of brood that's solid. You got all these intermittent drone cells, and they're drones, I know, because they stick out deeper. They stick out farther. I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not. But, so chances are you're not going to find a queen in here, and if you do find a queen, she's no good. You need to take care of her, get rid of her. And you can't just requeen this hive because they think they have a queen. The laying workers give off a pheromone that they think they have a queen. So if you put a new queen in this hive right now, they would roll on it and attack it. This hive is, or this frame is the same thing. It's covered with them. Look real quick for the queen. I looked earlier, I didn't see her. So what's happened, she's failed. She may have laid those eggs that became drones, or it's laying workers. Either way, it's a failed queen. It's no good. So there was no eggs for them to make a new queen from. So I don't see any queen cells in there. That's important. If you saw queen cells in here, which you wouldn't with all those drones, but if you saw a queen cell, then then you'd probably leave it alone. So now you know what that looks like. So I'm going to wait until the sun starts to set and all the field bees will be in here. That way I won't lose any of the field bees. If I move it now, the field bees would all come back and their home would be gone. And they would die or have to beg their way into another hive somewhere. So that's this part. So I'm just going to put this back together, get the sugar on it. They did have a little bit of nectar in there, but not a whole lot. And then you saw that one piece of sugar, that one honeycomb that was in there. This is just wax paper. What you do is you put that paper down, and in an emergency or in the spring if you need to, just pour granulated sugar on that paper, and it gets hard from the moisture from the bees. And if they don't have honey, which they didn't have hardly any, that'll keep them going until they can start foraging on their own. Alright, I'm going to button this sucker up. So when I get ready to move it, I'm going to just pop the whole hive body up and carry it over there and put it on top of that double screen. And I'll go over there and give you a shot of that. So you can see what that looks like. Okay, let's go over here to Tiny Swarm Hive. It's this one right here, second from the right. I believe it's number 18. Yeah, number 18. Here's the double screen board. This has a number 8 hardware cloth on it, so bees cannot pass through it. It has it on both sides, and it's about, I'd say it's a 1/4 inch between the two screens. It has a front and a side entrance for the top and the bottom. And you just turn these things right here. So here's the one on the side. So I'm going to set this, I'm going to take the outer cover and inner cover off, set this right on it. Airplane. So it's interesting, an airplane just came over on approach heading north, and it's dead calm here, which tells me Will Rogers Airport has reconfigured their runways for the north wind, which means it's fixing to get cold. So as I was saying before the airplane interrupted us, it's got entrances for the top and the bottom. These are the ones for the top side, and it's got them for the bottom as well. So normally what you would do if you open them, you would open one at the front and maybe the bottom one on the side. So the bees, it keeps them separated and they use their own entrance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this on there, and I'm not going to open either one. I'm going to keep them locked up. I'm going to keep them locked up for about, well, until this cold front passes anyway. And then once it passes, I'll open the side. And these laying workers will, since they've been in the hive and they haven't been let out for over 24 hours and they've been locked up, well, probably longer than that, they'll reorient when they come out. So they'll orient to this side entrance. And I'll keep them like that for a while. And the bees from the bottom and the top will acclimate to each other and think they're part of the same hive. The laying workers that up here will stop laying. And all those drones will hatch out and they'll leave. And I'll eventually, after probably 2 weeks, remove this, and then the queen can come up in the top and lay if she wants, and the two hives will combine. At that point, I might combine them into one deep depending on how many bees are left and if they do survive. So I'm going to do that at dusk, and I will film that. Okay, it's getting fairly late in the evening. I'm going to go ahead and put the double screen board on here and get ready. When I opened this hive before, the queen was on the inner cover. She was right there. I'll tell you what, I don't know if these bees will survive without that sugar, because there's basically no honey in there. So I think I need to put this board on here. Okay, it's dusk now. The sun's setting behind me there, so all the bee activity's pretty much shut down. So I'm going to go over there and get that hive and bring it over here and set it up. So one thing I did when I put this lid on, I scooted it all the way to the back. So this notch right here, they can't go in and out of that. So the bees in the top are virtually locked into the top. When I've done this before and the bees could come and go, they wound up leaving and coming back into the entrance on the bottom, and then they were all in the bottom and there weren't any bees up top, and that's when the queen would get superseded. So I'm trying to lock them in here so this doesn't happen. So that doesn't happen again. I'm going to follow up with this in about a week, and hit the like and subscribe, and I'll put it in my laying worker resolution video folder. There's a couple more out there, and you can see how I've done this before. This is a little bit different variation of that I'm going to try. So hey, if you liked the video, give me a thumbs up, and hit like and hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, and welcome to all the new subscribers. I hope you enjoy what you're seeing. Put some comments down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. We'll see you on the next video.